Hi, everybody. This is chapter 2 for week 1. We want to talk about the culture and cultural effects on human behaviors and in social structures and also in human societies. At first, we have, like other chapters, we have some question for thinking, more thinking about it, and deep thinking about it. What values are important in your culture? Are these values important in other cultures? How would you describe your culture to someone who is not familiar with your culture? And does technology influence culture or does culture influence technology? Some great questions about the interaction between culture, technology, and other people and these problems. Please think about it. If you are not familiar with your culture and you want to go beyond your limitation in knowledge about the cultures, what elements should you think about for definition of culture and for considering in other cultures to pay attention? What are the major elements you should pay attention in other cultures which are not familiar with you in order to understand that culture and sometimes evaluate that cultures? Chapter outline our culture and society in changing world, components of culture, technology, cultural change and diversity, a global popular culture, sociological analysis of culture, and culture in the future. We have something here, as you see, for example, society and everyday life. How is the food that we consume linked to our identity and the larger culture of which we are a part? Do people who identify with more than one culture face more complex issues when it comes to food preferences? So, our topic about the use of sociology in everyday life is about the relationship between culture and food trucks. Cheese is a universal food enjoyed by people of all nations and cultures. How do you think about the rate and range of using cheese by all nations? Is it true or not? Cheese is a universal food enjoyed by people of all nations and cultures. Is it false? Giving round-shaped foods to the parents of new babies is considered to be lucky in some cultures. Relationship between the feeling about your food and the shape of the food, especially when um, this is driven by culture. The culture says yes, for example, round-shaped food is good for babies, young babies. Is it true or false? Is it true? Wedding cakes are made of similar ingredients in all countries, regardless of culture or religion. We will talk about it whenever you're talking about culture. One of the main components which induces a lot of rituals, a lot of customs, a lot of basic beliefs to that culture for routine and daily life behaviors, daily life thinking, and daily life emotions is religion. Religion is a powerful source of culture because of two aspects. One, all religions today have an ancient roots, and secondly, a lot of organizations, a lot of organized activities for religion is being done every day in the nation, in the world, all around the world with different aspects and with different sides of right or false. So one of them is, for example, relationship between culture and religion. When we are talking wedding cake and wedding ceremony is a ceremony or culture base. Wedding cakes are made of similar ingredients in all countries, regardless of culture or religion. It is false. What's the relationship between the religion and ingredients of wedding cake? Food is an important part of religious observance for many different faiths. Is there any religious observance to the food? Yes, we know that every religion has some orders for eating or not eating. It is better to eat some foods in specific religions, and in other religions, maybe that it is not it is not authorized. It is not allowed to use that food. In authentic Chinese cuisine, cooking methods are divided into yin and yang qualities. As you know, yin and yang are the opposite part of existence in Chinese medicine, in Chinese philosophical mind. Like, for example, white and black. One is yin, one is yang. Chinese culture says that all the existence are is included of two opposite parts, dark and light, white and black, and a good or bad, and other things. Is it true about the food, cultural food and culture-based food? Yes. Because of the fast pace of life in the United States, virtually everyone relies on mixes and instant foods at home and fast food when eating out. Is it true or false? Because of the fast pace of life in the United States, virtually everyone relies on mixes and instant foods at home and fast food when eating out. How do you think about it? It's false. It's not related to the fast pace of life. Yes, there is a fast pace of life in the United States, but not about everyone. Potatoes are the most popular mainstay in the diet of first and second generation immigrants who have arrived in the United States over the past 40 years. Is it true or false? False. According to sociologists, individuals may be offended when a person from another culture does not understand local food preferences or the cultural traditions associated with eating, even if the person is obviously an outsider or a tourist. When someone is a tourist, foreigner, outsider, and we know that he or she is outsider and he or she doesn't understand our food culture. But when it happens that he or she doesn't understand, we are so angry about him or at him or at her. Is it true or false? Is it true? So with this question, you can understand that food is a serious part of cultural messages to the world. Culture and society in a changing world. Culture. What is culture? What are the main components of culture? Culture is the knowledge, language, values, customs, and material objects that are passed from person to person, from one generation to the next, in a human group or society. So, at first we should know the elements of culture: knowledge, language, especially part is values, customs, and material objects. From one person to another person, from one generation in a human group or society. So, three words are keywords in the definition of culture. One, values and customs. Two, passed from. And three, human society or group. Material culture consists of the physical or tangible creations that members of a society make, use, and share. And non-material culture consists of the abstract and tangible human creations of society that influence people's behavior. For example, praying style. How do you connect with God in a praying style, praying procedure, and the spirituality and symbols and the hidden meaning of the words in high context countries. These are non-material culture. But the form of your dress your social behavior based upon the culture. For example, Japan is one of the greatest countries with a lot of material and non-material culture. Why? Because one of the greatest differences between the culture and the history is that part of history that you can dose in a daily life of a country of people, it is culture. So culture is based upon the history. It's okay, but it doesn't mean that you can see all part of the history in the present daily life behaviors. You can see a lot of traditional behaviors, regard, and rituals in daily life of modern Japan. So this is material culture and non-material culture. Customs and value are not material. Material objects based upon the culture is material culture. And for example, for different meaning, horn, oh, your spouse is unfaithful, and circle, absolutely fine, I will kill you, and thumbs up, great, or an obscenity. As international travelers or business people have learned, hand gesture may have very different meaning in different culture. One of the greatest culture-based movement, culture-based language, is the hidden and detailed part of handshaking and body language, and sometimes we call it is hand language or finger language. Polling question. We can't think about it because this class is not in the real class, it is online, and honestly we cannot have a voting and polling question, but you can think about it, everybody on his or her own self. What are some examples of material and non-material culture? I answered. And cultural universals are customs and practices that occur across all societies. In psychology, there is a word, cross-cultural psychology and cultural psychology. That part of psychology that studies the culture base of the mind. For example, social psychology is a culture base. Consumer psychology, even deep psychology, it is culture based. The meaning of the symbols in the mind of a group of people, it is culture based. But for example, the different parts of brain and the process of shaping language in a human being, it is relatively cross-cultural. It is not limited to one specific culture. We can consider it for all cultures in different cultures with the same and single procedure. For example, appearance, activities, social institutions, and customary practices. In each category, we have different examples for cross-cultural psychology or cultural universals. Components of culture. One, symbols. I love it. Symbols are anything that meaningfully represent something else. Represent something else. The symbol doesn't show the same thing. For example, writing includes a lot of symbols. For example, look at the verb see. Okay, see is a shape, and you can call it see. But the shape of see in another country, in another language, another verbal language is with different shape. It is symbols. Symbols are represent something else. You say house, house. Is it a verbal symbol of an external and outer world, out of my mind word? It is something that you can go inside and have a rest and have happy time and, for example, sleep, eating, and other things. My voice as house is not the same thing. It is represent that physical being outside my mind. This is the function of symbols. Symbol shows that outer world can be representation is the keyword of symbol. If you want to know only one word for definition of symbols, it is representation, mental representation. Symbols are mental representation of physical world. And what is language? Language is a set of symbols that express ideas and enables people to think and communicate with one another. So in language, we have some keywords: symbols, expression, communication. Symbols, expression, communication. We can also add ideas and think. It is absolutely approved in psychology, general psychology, that language is the starting point of thinking. When you are thinking, you are talking to yourself. When you are thinking, you are talking to yourself. Thinking are the sentences in the mind. Thinkings are the sentences in the mind. When you are thinking, you are talking to yourself. So we can use language for symbols, expression, and communication. This hypothesis suggests that language shapes the view of reality and its speaker. This is Sapir-Whorf's hypothesis. Suggests that language shapes the view of reality and its speakers, the symbols of reality, the verbal part of reality. As you know, we talk about symbols, something for representation, mental representation of the real world, outer world. Should English be the official language of the United States? Maybe or not, I don't know. Values, what are values? Are collective ideas about what is right or wrong, good or bad, and describable and desirable or undesirable in a particular culture. Please pay attention. A lot of values, a major part of values, are culture-based. A lot of value, a major part of values, are not universal values. Also, in moral development theory in psychology, the final and the edge of the maximum point of moral development is universal, gaining universal ethical issues or universal ethical principles. Yes, but it is at the end, at the top of all other stages of moral development. In the mid level and the down level of moral development, there is no universal values, or major part of values are not universal. They are culture based, not cross cultural. For individualism, achievement, and success, we can have a lot of different values in these areas of judgment: individualism, achievement and success, activity and work. You can find these values in the Society of America. Science and technology, progress and material comfort, efficiency and practicality, equality, morality and humanitarianism, freedom and liberty, and ethnocentrism and group superiority. There's an offer for you. Highly recommend it to you as the future managers and future business leaders. Read and study about the ethnocentrism. It is very, very important, especially in some countries like America, that you can see a lot of different culture. Diversity of cultures, cultural diversity or diversity of culture is very uh, observable in America. So ethnocentrism is a general part and a main part of the culture-based beliefs in America. What are norms? We have an adjective. so-called normal. What is norms and normal? Norms are established rules or behavior or standards of conduct. Established rules, behavior, or standards of conduct. They are norms. Formal versus informal norms. Formal norms are established by law and by legal departments and by governments, or sometimes by religion and sometimes by families, but they are verbal. We can talk about the formal norms, but informal norms is under the hidden part and hidden skin of the city, under the skin of the city. It is informal. Sometimes informal norms are not, for example, in racism. In racism, when you see that racism can be seen in some cultures, but they never say that, yes, we are racist. They never say. They say, no, we are not racist. But this is informal norm, informal abuse that, for example, uh, this type of people are not equal to that type of people. From color, from gender, from race, from ethnicity, for religion and other parts. It is class conflict. Okay? And sanctions are reward for appropriate behavior or penalties for inappropriate behavior. Sanctions are reward for appropriate behavior or penalties for inappropriate behavior. Is the it is the difference between sanctions and penalties. Folkways are informal norms or everyday customs that may be violated without serious consequences within a particular culture. And mores are strongly held norms with moral or ethical connotations that may not be violated without serious consequences in a particular culture. And finally, we have laws or formal standardized norms that have been enacted by legislatures and are enforced by formal sanctions. We have different parts and different types of norm, folkways, mores, laws, and other things. It is very hidden part. There is very hidden part to do or to perform or to work as a manager in a company, in an organization. Why? It is not about knowledge. It is about attitude. It is not about knowledge. It is about attitude. If you cannot pay attention to the details of the norms in your company, in your organization, to the details and detailed differences, cultural differences in your company or organization, you cannot handle it. You will fail. Why? Because exact these details differences have very strong effect on your future decision making, on your leadership style and other things. Technology, cultural change, and diversity. Technology refers to the knowledge, techniques, and tools that allow people to transform resources into usable forms, and the knowledge and skills required to use them after they are developed. Again, we see in the definition of technology, it is transformation resources to the tools, to the skills, to the knowledge. Cultural lag is the gap between the technical developments of a society and its moral and legal institution. It is cultural lag. Honestly, we know during over the past 400 years, sorry, over the past 400 years, we have had great jumps in technology, very great jumps. Not great steps, great jumps. One point jumping to another. First mechanic, after that it is electronic, after that now it is photonic, and we don't know what is the next generation, for example, of industry of communication or telecommunication, for example. But the development of increasing the human values and standards is not at the same level of the technologies. In different level and in lower level, technology is so high, we are high tech, but we are not high culture. We are only high tech. This distance is called cultural lag. It's the gap between the technical developments of a society and its moral and legal institutions. Cultural diversity refers to the wide range of cultural differences between and within nations. Two aspects are considered for cultural diversity. For example, we know that a lot of North European countries, not only within the nations, but also out of the nation, between the, for example, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, and Finland, they are very similar together. Also before a lot of immigration of the Middle East and other parts, but basically because of the weather, because of the geographical territories and other things, they are very similar. They were very similar together. No cultural diversity within the nations and between the nations. But in America, we have a lot of cultural diversity, and even government protect cultural diversity. We have a visa here. It is called diversity visa, DV, diversity visa. Each year, government let about, yes, 50,000 people from different countries enter the America, and after 5 years have the citizenship of this country only for cultural diversity. The government protect. Why? Because of diversity is the sign of creativity, sign of modern life. And it is only by lottery. It is diversity visa lottery or green card lottery visa. Heterogeneity of the U.S. society is not important. A subculture is a category of people who share distinguishing attributes, beliefs, values, and/or norms that set them apart in some significant manner from the dominant culture. For example, um, in religious groups, you see a culture, for example, Christianity. Okay. Which is the main culture? Yes, dominant religious culture. But you can see subcultures, for example, for Christianity, Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, and other subcultures. In this attitude to Christianity, we can see these parts as subculture. Also, you can call these parts other names. But in the uh, conceptual frame of cultural attitude to everything, we can see the divisions of Christianity of subculture. What is the dominant culture? Christianity. What are the subcultures? The other things we talk about it. Are college students a subculture? When you want to talk about subcultures, at first you should determine the main culture, dominant culture. Subculture have the main components of dominant culture. The difference is between the interpretation, not about the basic beliefs, core beliefs. It is not different. The core beliefs are the same, but the details and the interpretation of the core beliefs, yes, they are different. And another word is countercultures. Countercultures are groups that strongly reject dominant societal values and norms and seek alternative lifestyles. We have a word here, it is anarch. anarch or anarchy. Anarchy is the counterculture of ordinary life. The movement of hippism in 1960s was one of the greatest countercultures in the history of the United States. One of the greatest countercultures in the history of US. Why? Because they were flower kids. They called them flower kids. They want peace and serenity for all people, all nations all around the world, not only in the US. And they were free of any social value. You can see a lot of drug abuse, sometimes naked people and other things you can see. They were countercultures. They were against the regular norms of the society also in that time, not now. So there is no judgment about the cultures and cross cultures. As you remember, the scientists of sociology said to us, sociology should be value free. It is not about the judgment that which is good or which is not good, which is black or white, conditional or unconditional, acceptable or unacceptable. It is about description, explanation, prediction, and control. Culture shock is the disorientation that people feel when they encounter culture radically different from their own and believe they cannot depend on their own taken for granted assumptions about life. It is culture shock. You can see in the immigrants culture shock, especially those immigrants that had done immigrancy without any pre-plan. Suddenly, for example, refugees, you can see culture shock. They have entered another country and they cannot interpret and adapt themselves to the new country, new culture, based upon their previous cultural beliefs. And they should change their beliefs about life. It is very hard and it is very rapid change because of that, because the power and severity and all, because of the speed of the change, it is called culture shock. Ethnocentrism is the practice of judging all other culture by one's own culture. I am good, you are not good. It's only me to have the right to interpret other people's culture, other countries' culture, other national cultures. I am ethnocentrism. Centrism is center. Ethno, it is about the cults, about the tribes, about the specific nation or specific race, like ethnography, ethnicity. Ethnocentrism is the practice of judging all other culture by one's own culture. And cultural relativism is the opposite of centrism. It's relative, yes, everybody is good. I'm okay, you are okay. It's the belief that the behaviors and customs of any culture must be viewed and analyzed by the culture's own standards in the background, in the context of that culture. Culture is the context of every human action. Every human action should be interpreted and should be perceived through the conceptual framework of culture. A global popular culture, high culture consists of classical music, opera, ballet, live theater, and other activities, usually patronized by elite audiences. But popular culture consists of activities, products, and services that are assumed to appeal primarily to members of the middle and working classes. Yes, we are high class cultures or low class culture. Sometimes it's called popular culture. It's a garbage division for a human being based upon the music, based upon the opera, based on these are the inherent, these are the heritage of human being, music, opera, ballet, theater. But when you want to divide people, for example, in high culture people and low culture people, music is a byproduct of human being life, human being age, human being history. Everything is not, nothing is more important than me as a human being. These are all history product and byproduct. So I think it is not so fair to divide people, for example, to high culture, but in the popular, yes, global popular culture and sociological analysis of culture. We have four approach: functionalist, conflict, symbolic, and postmodernist. Everything is considered and analyzed by these concepts. Functionalist theorists see popular culture as serving a significant function in society. Culture is the glue that holds society together. Why? Because they are functionalist theorists. They think that there is a relationship between functions of people and culture and society. So they see popular cultures, as we talk about it, was popular cultures consist of activities, products, and services that are assumed to appeal primarily to members of the middle and working class as serving a significant function in society. They say yes. In this categorization, in these divisions, we see a lot of people as popular culture in the popular culture. Very, very specific and short period and short uh, level of societies are from high culture. Other people are popular culture. We are popular. And they see culture is the glue that holds society together. After that, it is about the conflict theories. Conflict theories see values and norms as helping to create and sustain the privileged position of the powerful in society. What does it mean? Conflict theories always talk about the class conflict, gender conflict, ethnical conflict, racial conflict, and social class conflict, totally between the different social classes, gender classes, and other things. Class is the key word. Class conflict is the key word in the theory of conflict theories. So one of the major components of class is values or norms, helping to create and sustain the privileged position of the powerful in society. But in symbolic interactions, argue that people create, maintain, and change culture as they go about their daily lives. Symbolic interactions theorists say that culture is a live phenomenon, is a live and flow phenomenon. Is it not a fixed? Is it not a stable? So it is a stable but not fixed. It's a live and progressive phenomenon. They see culture something like it, and they say people live and culture is also alive, and there is an interaction between the culture and people of culture, culture and people and culture. Culture affect people and people behavior, actions, beliefs, feelings, and thoughts will affect the culture. And postmodernist theories believe that we should discuss cultures rather than a single culture. Postmodernists they said we should have a global perspective on culture. We don't have any single culture. We should talk about the cultures, not single culture. There is no single culture. People are from the same creator, and after that, by dividing to different countries, for example, for I think it's about 50,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago, that the primary human moved from Africa, somewhere which is called now Africa, to other parts of the earth, and gradually they shape different cultures in at first in I think it is Egypt and yeah, the southern part of Asia, and after that went to India, and now we can see different cultures all around the world. Because of that, postmodernist says that you cannot consider one culture. You should consider cultures from different parts of the world, not culture. There's no such thing as a single concept like culture. And if you want to have a concept quick review of culture, components of cultures are symbols, language, values, and norms. Symbols are anything that meaningfully represent something else. Representation, don't forget. Language, a set of symbols that expresses idea and enables people to think and communicate with one another. Values, collective idea about what is right or wrong, good or bad, and desirable or undesirable in a particular culture. And finally, the definition of norms as a major component of culture, establish rules of behavior, standards of conduct. And sociological analysis of culture, we talked about the different parts and different talking about the culture. We have a polling question again here. Which theoretical perspective do you agree with the most? From these perspectives, functionalist perspectives, conflict perspectives, symbolic interactionist perspectives, and postmodern perspectives. Which of them do you agree with the most? Consider, for example, here we can see about the crime and about the immigrants that want to become the citizens of America. The last part of every chapter, we will talk about that future of that topic. Our topic is culture. How will our culture change in the future? Don't forget that the postmodernist thinker says that there is no culture, there is no single culture. We have cultures. And how do you think about the future of culture? I think that, honestly, I think that a lot of things about the cultures is related to the cyberspace. Cyberspace and internet are the major part of changing, major component of changing uh, in the future, future of culture. Why? Because the essence of communication has been changed during these days. And honestly, this is not virtual world. Sometimes I think our real world is virtual world in contrast with, for example, virtual world and with this pandemic, like, for example, coronavirus, we saw that, oh, virtual world is a real world and we can do anything in the virtual world with or without any disturbance. We are gradually getting habited to use the virtual world as a real world. Bye bye.